Daytona 500 just had a chaotic closing after a historical 212 laps. Race car drivers are paid astronomical sums of money to drive vehicles in circles for a variety of reasons. When the decision is made as to who will win the Daytona 500 and have his name inscribed on one of the most renowned trophies in auto racing, it will become clear why one of those factors exists in the late afternoon hours of Sunday. This season's Daytona 500 had the worst number of crashes in addition to its historical longest number of laps run at 212. So what exactly happened? Well, let's take a deeper look at the previous Sunday event. Hello NASCAR fam, and welcome back to NASCAR Live. But before we begin, subscribe to our channel and hit the like button, and let's begin. The final 5 laps of the 500 tell the story, despite the fact that it is a marathon and a multitude of early race accidents may affect which drivers have the best chances of winning. The final 10 to 12 miles of the Daytona 500 rate is some of the most competitive racing of the whole racing year, spanning a lengthy season and several racing disciplines. Drivers will try almost everything in the final miles of the 500 to get their hands on the trophy because there is none like it in stock car racing. The Daytona 500 has changed into the Daytona 490 plus 10 miles of mayhem as a result, especially during the past decade or two. Slingshot passes and land grabs using only horsepower on the final lap are things of the past. Now, in the final miles of the race, a driver must be prepared to smash, crash, and occasionally make irrational maneuvers in order to win the 500. Some proof? Drivers who did not take the lead on the final lap before the white flag have won 4 of the last 7 500s. Only 2 of the last 18 500-mile races featured a final green flag run that lasted more than 6 laps. Just the final lap of the race was led by 3 of the previous 6 500 winners. Following late race collisions, 4 of the previous 5 500s were decided in overtime. In the 500 starting field, at least 24 vehicles have been involved in collisions during the past 6 years, several of them during the decisive 10-lap sprint. In the end, one of the most significant races in motorsports is frequently decided by late race mayhem rather than necessarily by the ability and skill of individual drivers. With the exception of the NASCAR 500, Brad Keselowski has triumphed in nearly every significant race. There's the old Indianapolis saying, "I think that you don't win the Indy 500. The Indy 500 kind of picks the winner," he stated. Sometimes it feels that way here, that the winner of this race, if you go back and watch the last 3 or 4 laps, the winner is usually decided, at least for the Daytona 500, by the move that the 3rd and 4th place car makes. Almost every year, and you can't drive the 3rd and 4th place car and the 1st place car all at the same time. In the final laps, Keselowski emphasized it's important to pay attention to the second row. It's a given that I'll be watching the game from the stands, but I don't know if I'm going to be watching from the stands. The 3rd or 4th place finisher will determine the winner of the race. His actions, his companions, and his decisions will all have an effect or affect the outcome. Unfortunately, you have no influence over that. No safe zone exists during the final laps of the race, according to Kevin Harvick's crew chief Rodney Childers. He added, "We've got wrecked running in the lead, 2nd or 20th. You're completely clueless, I'll say that. A little bit of luck is required." Most of the time, your move needs to be coming off turn 4, coming to the white and trying to get position. Half the time, getting into turn 1 on the last lap, there's already a wreck. When the white comes out, it's pretty much. Kyle Busch is in the lead as the race enters overtime. With only 2 laps remaining, Daniel Suarez crashed into the wall, bringing out the caution and forcing the Daytona 500 into overtime. Only 2 laps earlier, Kyle Busch had passed Brad Keselowski for the lead, thanks to a push from teammate Austin Dillon. Busch is the Cup Series driver with the most career starts without a Daytona 500 victory. Ryan Preece, Michael McDowell, Martin Truex, and Kevin Harvick crash, and there is a caution with 19 laps remaining. William Byron, Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, Joey Logano, and Harrison Burton are in front of them. Preece sped directly to the garage, knowing full well that his automobile was wrecked. McDowell also gave the impression that the day was probably over. Keselowski and Buescher, teammates, were in the lead with less than 30 remaining. Only 2 laps into the 3rd and final stage with Eric Almirola in the lead, a caution was flashed after Ryan Blaney damaged a tire, causing debris to fly onto the racetrack. Following pit stops, the number 48 Chevrolet of Alex Bowman, who was on the pole, was damaged when he and Noah Gragson collided on pit road. To round out the top 5, there was Kyle Larson, Kevin Harvick, Bubba Wallace, and Chris Buescher. Ross Chastain and Christopher Bell received penalties while Bubba Wallace took the lead during pit stops. As Wallace fell behind after a lap, he continued to race while making pit stops and took over in front of the third and final stage. The second stage winner, Ross Chastain, and Christopher Bell both received penalties on the pit road. Both of them were positioned behind, and there were still 63 laps to go. By overtaking Alex Bowman at the finish line, Ross Chastain won Stage 2. Chastain, who is one of Florida's most well-known watermelon farmers, defeated Alex Bowman to the finish line by a mere fraction of an inch to win Stage 2 and the corresponding 10 points. During a caution brought on by a collision involving Tyler Reddick, Chase Elliott, and Eric Jones, Chastain made his way to the front and outran Bowman on the inside, narrowly edging him out on the tri-oval. The final 3 positions were held by Joey Logano, Ricky Stenhouse, and Austin Cindric. With 80 laps remaining in the Daytona 500, a crash involving Turn 4 included Chase Elliott, Tyler Reddick, Eric Jones, and Ryan Blaney. After Harvick shoved Reddick into Turn 4, a domino effect that included Chastain, Kyle Larson, Eric Jones, Chase Elliott, Ryan Blaney, and Daniel Suarez, among others, was triggered. While Jones steered his number 43 Chevrolet into the garage, Reddick, who suffered the severity of the collision, stepped out of his vehicle. Despite getting to pit road, Elliott's day was over as he got hooked up to a wrecker. As the round of green flag pit stops progresses, Kyle Busch is penalized, with Joey Logano now in the lead. With a little more than 20 laps remaining in Stage 2, Kyle Busch was penalized for pit road speeding while those green flag pit stops were made. The Ford team was in charge of the race for the first half of Stage 2, and Brad Keselowski, the Stage 1 winner, entered the pits as the leader. And then Busch had to undergo a stop-and-go penalty. Following the conclusion of the pit stops, Ryan Blaney and Joey Logano alternated taking the lead. The final 3 places were taken by Martin Truex, Ty Gibbs, and Kyle Larson. Ryan Preece, Brad Keselowski, and Eric Almirola were leading with Fords in command. Fords dominated 2-wide racing in Stage 2 as Eric Almirola, Brad Keselowski, Austin Cindric, Ryan Preece, Michael McDowell, and Kevin Harvick all led the field. After pit stops, Keselowski and Preece emerged on the front row, with Keselowski winning Stage 1 and Preece coming in second. With 48 laps remaining in the stage, the Fords were in 7 of the top 10 positions. Travis Pastrana and Connor Daly were both 2 laps behind Stage 1 winner Brad Keselowski. A few Toyotas, including Martin Truex, were in the way of a single-file procession when a pair of lapped vehicles intervened. Keselowski pounced and quickly passed them all before cruising to the Stage 1 victory. And in all 4 top 5, Ryan Preece, Chris Buescher, Kevin Harvick, and Michael McDowell came after him. With Bubba Wallace, Zane Smith, and B.J. McLeod all stranded 1 lap down, A.J. Allmendinger was in a good position to win the Lucky Dog. Riley Herbst, Travis Pastrana, and Connor Daly were all displaying laps behind. After taking the lead, Bubba Wallace crashes into the wall and risks dropping a lap. Martin Truex bump-drafted Bubba Wallace as they entered Turn 3, which caused him to lose the lead and crash into the wall. Wallace had taken up the lead from Chase Briscoe and was in the top lane when Truex shoved Wallace into the fence and into pit road. Wallace was able to resume the race with a 2-tire stop, but without drafting assistance, the field was closing in to lap him. There were only 12 laps in the opening phase. With 28 laps remaining in Stage 1, a group of Fords arrived on pit road, prompting the remainder of the field to follow shortly after. Pit road fashion was first established by the group of 11, which included Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney, and Brad Keselowski. A few Chevrolets, notably Corey LaJoie, and the leader at the time, Alex Bowman, soon followed. On an attempt to enter pit road, Riley Herbst spun and dropped to 38th place. Tyler Dillon goes to the garage. Dillon, who is operating the number 77 Chevrolet, has taken his vehicle to the garage due to a mechanical issue. Kyle Larson and Christopher Bell were still in the lead as Jimmy Johnson moved up. Around the 25-lap mark, Christopher Bell on the outside and Kyle Larson on the inside were still blazing a trail, but other vehicles were moving up behind them. Jimmy Johnson, a 7-time winner, who is currently running 26th after moving up 11 spots, stood out the most. The top 5 was completed by Austin Cindric, Joey Logano, Eric Almirola, and the defending champion. On lap 12, Christopher Bell was in the lead. The number 20 Toyota, driven by Bell, took the lead from the outside lane after the front row starts Alex Bowman and Kyle Larson had controlled the previous 10 laps. With Bowman following Bell and Larson being pushed by Joey Logano on the inside, the field was still 2x2 the entire time. Austin Cindric, Ryan Blaney, Corey LaJoie, Chase Elliott, and Todd Gilliland make up the remaining 5 spots in the top 10, with Eric Almirola running in the top 5. Kurt Busch still wishes to compete. In a race based on fuel mileage in which teams gambled with low fuel loads during the final kilometers, Kurt Busch won the 500 that year.
For my race, the year that I won in 2017, it ended up being a long fuel run to the end. One of those classic 50-lap duels of guys conserving fuel, positioning themselves to be up front and to lead. Tony Gibson, my crew chief at the time, said we're good for 48 laps, but not 50. I need you to save me 2 laps of fuel. So I had zero intention of leading any of those laps other than the last one. And guys started running out of fuel. Logano ran out of fuel, Truex, Chase Elliott, a lot of top guys. And then right at the end, when I made a move on Larson, his car sputtered. And then Blaney's coming out of nowhere, chasing me down. That was one of the last, I think, true runs at the end. And now it is circumstantial, but you have to get in position to be in that position to win. And Bubba Wallace has done a great job of doing that and being in contention. Ryan Blaney, Denny Hamlin, you can see the ones that put the patterns together to position themselves for it. And then you have to have Lady Luck on your side.
Over the most of the race, drivers from the same manufacturers usually join up to draft together, but the closing few laps transform the race into a harsh and bitter Badlands, where nobody has friends and everyone else is a snake waiting to strike. It resembles the antithesis of a church social. So that's going to end today's episode. We sincerely hope you enjoyed our video. Please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel to see even more of our incredible videos. And thanks for watching.